Adventures Across Disney, My Journey to Win Over Every Princess. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 36. Between the two of them, Elsa also hurried out of the palace. She held a large box in her hand. With people around, Elsa didn't dare to use magic. I could only hold it with some difficulty, and quickly came to my father. Placing the box on the ground and opening it, he took out a bulging backpack bag and a small brown box. Elsa let out a breath and calmed her heaving chest. With a faint smile on his face, he handed the backpack strap to his father, then opened the brown box, revealed a small black ball of the sea dandelion inside, and say, "Mom and Dad, bring both of these things with you." Xiaowen said that the backpack bag is for marine emergency use, and it must always be kept by his side. It can be useful once something bad happens. Saying that, Elsa pointed to the small ball in the brown box and reminded, "This is a sea dandelion seed, bring it with you." Xiaowen said that this thing can protect people as long as it meets water, so it is best to bring it closely, Xiaowen said. Aner looked at his eldest daughter and told himself with a rare bits and pieces. Although the mouth is full of Xiaowen's is very unpleasant, but in the end, he took the brown box with a smile. Put the box in his pocket and say seriously, "Dad promised you will definitely carry it closely." After a brief exchange between the two sides, the Ainers said their final goodbye. After all, he was escorted by the guards and turned into the carriage with his wife, disappeared in the direction of the castle. Two little princesses stood at the entrance of the castle, arm in arm, watched the convoy disappear. This scene made them all feel a strong sense of immediacy, because a week ago, they also watched Xiaowen leave like this. Only this time, Anna didn't cry, just a little silently holding his sister. "I don't want to say a word." Elsa as a sister, although the sadness in the heart is not weaker than Anna, but looking at my sister's appearance, my heart is also very uncomfortable. In between thoughts, Elsa seemed to have thought of something, eyes lit up. Bringing his little face to Anna's ear, he whispered, "Mom and Dad are gone, shall we quietly build a snowman in the castle tonight? Is it really possible?" Anna looked at Elsa in surprise as if she had regained her vitality for a moment. The look of depression in his eyes was also hidden by surprise. "Of course you can, but we have to be quiet, we have to close the door, so that others can't see it." Anna Chick pecked at the rice and nodded. The youthful vitality in his eyes quietly radiated again. The attendants who were stranded around also smiled. Seeing my sister Anna was in a better mood, Elsa felt that her mood was also much better. She looked up, looking at the fat butler standing not far away. He said softly, "Grand Butler Ida, please do the things in the castle next." The fat butler named Ida bowed slightly and said respectfully, "Your Highness Elsa, please rest assured, I will help you take care of the castle. Any of your orders before the king's return. It will be the only truth in the entire kingdom of Arendelle." At night, inside the princess's boudoir, Anna opened her eyes early and waited for it to get dark. Until she saw that the moon was already hanging high. When the eyes around were silent, only then did she have an excited expression on her face. Anna turned around, and with one turn she fell on Elsa's body, pinched her face and whispered, "Elsa, hurry up, let's go build snowmen and have snowball fights." "Elsa? Elsa, Elsa, Elsa." Anna saw a smile on the corner of Elsa's mouth, but she couldn't wake up. I couldn't help biting my lip and rolling my big eyes. Then the little hand was raised back, just slapped Elsa's ass. With the churning crisp sound came, Elsa shuddered, opened my eyes incredulously. She turned her head and squinted, looking at her sister's bold hand. A dangerous smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Anna on Elsa, the hand paused, and the eyes drifted, slowly and hand back. The mouth is still whispering, Aisha. I've thought about it. In a moment, we will build a snowman, and its name will be Shuebao." Elsa touched her somewhat numb buttocks. Looking at Anna, the corners of her eyes curved, and said with a smile, "Okay, it's called Shuebao, then you come over, I'll take you out. Don't run, let me pat you too." Episode 37. In the middle of the fight, the time of joy always passes quickly. 10 minutes later, the two were barefoot, come to an empty hall. With the sound of click, the huge temple door was slowly pushed open. A small gap was exposed. In this gap, there are two slender figures, quietly sneaked in. When the temple door was completely closed, the sound was completely isolated inside. In the middle of the main hall, moonlight shone through the gaps in the windows and onto the secluded ground, bringing a soft light to the dark hall. The two came to the center of the hall and stood where the moonlight was falling. A big smile appeared on Elsa's face. She opened her hands in Anna's expectant eyes, gently turned the room. A little ice blue starlight gathered on her hand. Finally, Elsa's hands gently shook inward. Under the ice blue starlight, a small ball of snow appeared out of thin air. In Anna's excited eyes, Elsa threw the snowball in her hand hard into the sky. Bang! The snow mass with ice blue starlight. It suddenly hit the eaves at the top of the main hall. As the snowball exploded, countless ice blue brilliant starlight instantly floated out. In an instant, the entire hall was shrouded in it. It's like a wonderland on earth, beautiful. Aisha pulled little Anna on the side, who wanted to catch the starlight. Big Eyes, with a smile in them, stretched out his finger and shook it, and said with a clever smile, "And oh." Saying that, she gathered the elemental magic in her body, step barefoot and gently step on the ground. Suddenly, the air in the entire hall all solidified instantly. And the floor under her feet, it was also centered on the point where Elsa stepped on, and the layers of ice quickly spread around, until the ground in the entire hall is frozen in it. This terrifying elemental magic quietly faded. In the sky of the main hall, I don't know when, those brilliant stars have turned into snow. It's falling down in a steady stream. Not often, the entire ground was covered in snow. Let what should have been with some hot weather instantly become cooler. The two of them were in this hall, piling up a snowman named Shuebao. It's just a pity no one else saw this scene. Time passes slowly. A month later. A steamship to the kingdom of Heglin. Xiaowen looked solemnly at the cloudy weather in the distance. They had been at sea for a month at this time. This month, the ship stayed ashore for a few days. Most of the time is spent at sea. The situation at sea is quite calm. Occasionally there are some heavy waves and rain, but the situation is not serious. But today, the weather has become strange. Since morning, dark clouds have been swirling high in the sky. It's close to noon. It was supposed to be a sunny day, but the sky was gloomy and terrible. Xiaowen stood on the ship's board, looking at the area behind which there was already lightning and thunder, and tsunamis were surging. My heart was a little anxious and throbbing. Although they are not hit by storms and tsunamis. But this natural disaster covers an unimaginable area. Will it come to their heads? It's really an unknown. After sailing in less than half a month, you can reach your destination. He doesn't want to explain here for no reason. After a long time, Xiaowen's worry was finally put to the bottom of his heart. Over time, by this time, they had gradually moved away from the area. Xiaowen guessed, if they leave a few days later, that is very likely to enter the most ferocious tsunami area. After all, the area covered by this natural disaster is too vast. Even if you sail with the fastest ship in the world, you may not be able to escape the area for days and nights. It will surely perish in it, 10 dead and lifeless. Such a ferocious storm and tsunami can actually cause disorder in the fire elemental magic in my body just now. This situation is so strange, it doesn't feel like an ordinary natural disaster. Xiaowen pondered, suddenly remembered a passage that the Goblin Elder had told him. He said that in the northern frontier of the Kingdom of Arendelle, there is a land called the Enchanted Forest. In that land are inhabited by 4 elemental spirits. These rules have always been extremely friendly. But decades ago, because of a war between the northern Xinjiang tribe and the Kingdom of Arendelle, let the spirit of nature be angry, which will cause the 4 elemental spirits of earth, wind, water, and fire to have a magical disorder, finally stormed away, completely out of control. Episode 38. Xiaowen was thinking about the elemental magic fluctuations that appeared in the area in front of him. Is it possible that in the northern Xinjiang region, the spirit of the water element is stirring up trouble? It's not okay. After thinking about it, Xiaowen felt that this possibility was really quite large. Otherwise, it is impossible to explain the unimaginable vastness of this vast area. There will be such a natural disaster. It is also impossible to explain the fire elemental magic in his body. Why does the phenomenon of resonance disorder occur? Xiaowen shook his head. Keep this guess to heart. Anyway, they were lucky enough to leave the area early. There is no point in thinking about it more. It can only be said that the next time you return, try to avoid this area and take a detour. If there is any unlucky bastard sailing in that place, Xiaowen could only say one thing to them. Amen, may the kingdom of heaven accept you. After Xiaowen turned around and went back to the house, in the area he used to look at, in the central area, the unlucky bastard he had in mind really existed. Moreover, it is a character that he completely did not expect. That was in the Kingdom of Arendelle, giant ship dedicated to the royal family, the Voyager 1. And in the ranks of hundreds of people on this ship, it is far from the land of Arendelle, the royal couple who are about to sail into the Dark Sea region. At this point, this incomparably huge ship, in the face of the tsunami rolling up by the sea, it's as fragile as a paper boat. It won't be long before it is completely shattered. On the boat, King Aner held his wife and watched the scene in despair. They have done their best on this ship, sailed for 2 whole days in the midst of this storm. But not only did they not leave the area, instead, it came to the place where the tsunami and storm were the strongest. During these 2 days of sailing, hundreds of people have already died in this disaster. But now it seems, everyone will die. Including them in the Kingdom of Arendelle, the 2 most noble beings. Aner looked ahead of the ship, the fast-coming, sky-shading tsunami wave. He hugged his wife tightly and, in the midst of the storm, cried out loudly, Aduna, it is my greatest luck to meet you in this life. See you in the next life. In the midst of a violent storm, the queen only saw King Aenir with his mouth open, but he couldn't hear anything he say. But at this time, the queen suddenly found that the king was carrying a backpack given to him by her daughter. She suddenly thought of something. Holding on to the last glimmer of hope to the extreme, quickly digging his hand into the king's garment, he jerked the small brown box out. Without any hesitation, open it directly. Pick up the small black ball inside and let it bathe in the rain. At the moment when the seeds of the sea dandelion meet the rain, that's a thumb-sized volume that starts to zoom in quickly. In just a few seconds, a large black ball was formed, enveloped the clasped royal couple in it, completely closed. But in that big black ball, seemingly safe darkness, does it really work? With a bang, the tsunami tens of meters high hit the ship, which was already about to fall apart. Swallow it in the waves in an instant. And at the moment when the waves hit the boat, violent countershock force suddenly let the king couple in the big black ball slam together. Fell into a complete coma. A small hope like the sea dand. In the face of the tsunami, it is simply a joke. How can the mighty power of nature be countered by individuals? This was before Aenir fell into a coma, last thoughts. But when the tsunami slammed down, at the moment when the sphere sea dandelion was about to shatter, the body of the comatose queen suddenly burst out with a brilliant light. In the nick of time, this ray of light suddenly penetrated the body of the sea dandelion, forming an invisible light wave barrier on its surface, with the sea water that carries tens of millions of pounds, hit it hard. Bang boom. Dull crashing sound, let the surface of this golden light barrier tremble violently, even the light that should have been brilliant dimmed down. However, the big black ball protected by the golden light did not appear the slightest damage, unharmed, with the broken hull floating above the sea. After defusing this crisis, the light in the queen's body gradually turned into a humanoid phantom that flashed with a dim glory. She looked at this apocalyptic scene. In confused eyes, subconsciously, a trace of disgust flashed. Episode 39. Immediately, she followed her instincts. The light on the surface of the body gradually turned into a soft mass of water. As her figure grew darker, this water source, she quietly sent into the sea. And in this source of water falling into the water, less than a few breaths of time, the monstrous waves and storms before her eyes, all with the rotation of the sea, get even more terrifying. As if in the water source under this whirlpool, what an incomparably terrifying existence is condensing. This weird scene, he didn't let the radiant humanoid phantom make any moves. She floated in front of the big black ball, quietly watched the scene in front of him. Soon, the vortex of terror in the sea began to gradually calm down. Gradually, a transparent water source began to condense. In the end, it materializes into a horse transformed from a flowing water source. Its eyes carried an air of fury. The surrounding water elemental magic is undulating violently uncontrollably. Let the sea water begin to boil for several miles. Make this area more and more hideous. This creature is made of the element water. Above its head, there is also a floating cloud of water with a faint halo. It seems that it is the humanoid phantom that condenses the water source. Again, it's because of the existence of this water source. Let the tyrannical and unintelligent eyes of the violent water element spirit flash a trace of doubt. There was no immediate attack. The humanoid phantom looked at the horse condensed in front of him, slowly drifted to its side, stretched out your increasingly dim and faint hand, under the vigilant and furious look of the water elemental spirit, caressed the top of its head. Ding! The moment your hand touches it, there was a sharp hum in the sea. At this moment, time seems to stand still. It should have been a spirit of the water element in a state of irrationality and rage. Suddenly, I felt an extremely familiar breath. It seems to be the original place where it was born. It is the touch of Mother Nature. This intimate and familiar feeling, let the eyes of the water element zero restore the short-term thinking reason. It raised its head and gently touched this illusory palm with its cheek. There was endless dependence and kindness in his eyes. After the spirit of the water element regained its sanity, the hideous tsunami began to dissolve in the water. The boiling sea water also gradually returned to calm. The dark clouds in the sky slowly dispersed. That storm was also in a very short time, just disappeared without a trace. When the clouds cleared, the first rays of light from the sun overhead, when shining on this sea, the humanoid phantom's hand gradually loosened. There was confusion in my eyes again. And in front of her the spirit of the water element, it seems to understand something. In this brief lucidity, it glanced pitifully at the humanoid phantom in front of it. It eventually turns into a pool of shining water, slowly falling, melting into the endless depths of the sea, forcibly put himself into a deep sleep. At a time when the question of the root of the spirit of nature has not been resolved, the sanity that the water elemental spirit can restore is only temporary. Only into a deep sleep, to be able to curb the tyranny. Don't hurt innocent existence, let this sea area be peaceful. The humanoid phantom looked at the water elemental spirit that gradually dissolved away. There is no fluctuation in the eyes. she lowered her head, silently looked at his body that was about to dissipate for a while. After a long time, Phantom turned his head and looked through the black ball of sea dandelion that was wrapped. He looked at Anne's queen, Aduna. A series of vague memories flashed through her mind after she woke up. At this time, the eyes of the Phantom finally showed a hint of farewell. She looked in the direction where the broken ship was floating. The light in his eyes seems to have passed through time. See where it ends up. The place was a fog. It is also the place where she was born. The humanoid Phantom stretched out his hand and brought the last bit of strength on his body. Cover the surface of the sea dandelion. Let it bring a touch of coercive aura that belongs to her, also on the body of the king and queen who are comatose inside, infused with a touch of her own magic. In this way, the two people will be asleep until they reach their destination. And this trace of her origin magic power is enough to maintain the physical nutrition of the two, so as not to be starved to death during this wandering journey. Episode 40. After doing this, the brilliance on the humanoid Phantom has almost disappeared. And she herself is already transparent and almost invisible. When people see it, they will think that there is a hallucination. The humanoid Phantom did not care about the changes in his body. She did this only because in her awakened consciousness, there were many more vague memories. And the source of memory, it was this woman in a coma in the sea dandelion. It's not instinct, it's just that she simply wants to help, that's all. After doing this, the humanoid Phantom turned his head flatly, and there was no emotion on his face. She felt her consciousness and origin that was about to dissipate. Quiet, stay where you are, quietly waiting for his return. As part of nature, she was supposed to be an unconscious collection of rules, only act according to the rules of nature. But I don't know when it started. Sometime in the enchanted forest where she was born, she began to have her first sense of self. This consciousness has only one simple expression, that is peace, peace-loving, although it was just a simple idea, but from the moment it created this consciousness, it is not destined to exist in this world. In the enchanted forest, after the war between the kingdom of Arendelle and the northern frontier tribe began, her consciousness of peace completely collapsed. This leads to confusion among the four major elements. She also ended up boarding with this peace-loving girl, while falling into a deep sleep. It also gave the greatest gift to the other party. This time, because of the strong emotions before the queen suddenly fell into a coma, she was briefly awakened. And because of the riot of the water element, he used the little power he had left, causing it to dissipate. This is a kind of underworld cause and effect in the collection of nature's rules. It's telling her, it's time to get back to nature, become part of the rules again. In the future causal cycle, get everything back on track. There was no joy or sorrow on the face of the humanoid Phantom, quietly waiting for the last moment of the death of the consciousness body. But suddenly, her eyes jerked ahead. Those illusory eyes, through time and space, suddenly landed on a merchant ship far away from the sea. There, she felt a human fluctuating force containing elemental magic, looking into the distance. Also looking at this, it seems to be looking at her. In the beautiful eyes of the humanoid Phantom, there was an indescribable consternation and a faint surprise. And her mouth finally came out from the moment she appeared. First mature ethereal female voice, the soul of another world cannot be perceived by the rules of nature. A body with elemental magic that satisfies my conditions for sojourn nourishment. If you follow him all the time, become a part of him, he is. It can be completely separated from the perception of the rules of the world and continue to exist. Outliers outside the world. Is this providence? Nope. In a human sense, I am heaven. So, does heaven also have fate? The ethereal female voice murmured. There was finally a little smile in his eyes. Her figure began to gradually condense. She eventually turned into a woman who was 7 points similar to the queen. And these 3 points are different, but it is to make her temperament and appearance much more noble and beautiful. It's just that the human form she turned into didn't last long. The beautiful figure was like a flash in the pan, and it dissipated again in the blink of an eye. Finally, it turns into a soft light that is difficult to see with the naked eye, towards the merchant ship hundreds of miles away. Sprinkle away. And on the other side, merchant ships hundreds of miles away from this storm. After looking into the distance to confirm that nothing happened, Xiaowen went back to the house and carried a recliner out. On the uppermost deck of a merchant ship, leaning lazily on top of the recliner, 2 grilled fish in his mouth, while eating and watching the apocalyptic scene in the rear. After the initial worries dissipated, I began to be fascinated by this scene, the heavenly majestic scene. Sailing at sea is so boring. You can stay here and enjoy the mighty power of nature. Xiaowen felt quite good. But it didn't take long. The grilled fish in Xiao Wen's hand fell to the ground. He opened his mouth and rapped at the scene in the area. That apocalyptic scenario, it is rapidly dissipating at a speed visible to the naked eye. The terrifying dark clouds in the sky, and the monstrous waves churning on the sea, in less than a minute, unexpectedly. Just gone? It's like seeing a mirage. In the blink of an eye, there is nothing. Episode 41. After a long time, Xiaowen poked his eyes. Feel the gradual subsidence of the elemental magic in your body. Forgot to think for a while. You know, in that area, without days and nights, you simply can't finish. What is this concept? If you look at the speed of sailing, it is equivalent to walking the distance of a large province in reality. And above the skies of this entire province, it's all this dense cloud and a terrifying storm. This weather, in just a minute, it disappeared without a trace. This had to surprise Xiaowen. But this surprise did not last long, because Xiaowen thought that this was a magical world. What a strange sight of cows, ghosts, snakes, and snakes. It also makes sense. He picked up the grilled fish on the ground, take a bite on the part of the meat that doesn't touch the ground, turned around, and walked slowly back to the room. What Xiaowen didn't know was, the moment he turned around, a soft halo of light quietly fell from the sky. It eventually melted into his body. Xiaowen just felt as if his body was getting hot for a while, then I didn't notice anything wrong again. After witnessing the birth and end of this cataclysm, over the course of the day, it became long and boring again. I managed to stay up into the evening. Xiaowen yawned and lay on the bed, entered the moment he most looked forward to every day. Lie down and sleep. As long as you fall asleep, time will pass very quickly. Another day passed when I opened my eyes. Xiaowen slowly closed his eyes with a good mood. 10 minutes later, his breathing gradually calmed down and he fell into sleep. And at some point in the middle of the night, in Xiaowen's body, a faint soft light slowly floated out. This soft light was suspended in the room for a while. It slowly turned into a beautiful silhouette. It's just that this silhouette looks a little strange. It seems to be constantly transforming between the virtual and the real. The last second is still an entity, the next second it becomes illusory. She looked at Xiaowen, who slept sweetly. A little doubt flashed in his confused eyes. The red lips opened lightly, and he muttered in his mouth. Xiaowen, I seem to know. Anna, Elsa, daughter. Friends, all like, lover, kiss, smelly boy, blessing of people. Strange picture. Although the memory in her mind came from the queen, but these memories were not deliberately absorbed by him. Rather, only if there is elemental magic around it, only then will some memories be drawn into her sleeping consciousness. She remembers it now, that is, some fleeting memory fragments, and it's almost all about Aisha, Anna, and Charvin. Two people with elemental magic, with Anna, are often inseparable together. Unconsciously, he was seen by the queen. And these memories, also under the traction of elemental magic, passed into her sleeping consciousness. Qianying looked at Xiaowen, slowly stepped forward, and lay down on his bed, next to him. In the pictures she received, there were many pictures of hugs and kisses, these blurry pictures of them, always with the happiness and warmth she likes to see the most. So she also wanted to try the feeling of being hugged. Qianying lay on the bed, and the jade hand lightly tapped Xiaowen's forehead. With the green halo rippling, Xiaowen slept more comfortably. She looked at Xiaowen's lips, and as the memory picture looked back, curiosity flashed in her eyes. Qianying immediately stepped forward, hugged Xiaowen, printed his lips, and savored it. After a long time, she ended her attempt, and although it felt strange, it seemed to be good. It's just that she looked at Xiaowen's hand rubbing the ball. There was a hint of doubt in his eyes, and he didn't understand why he did this. Is it to practice the activation of the fire element in your sleep? Although some strange sensations came from the body, but she still hugged Xiaowen, leaned close to his ear, and muttered, Melia, my name. After today, she will fall into a deep sleep. I don't know how long it will take to recover. But Melia will give this otherworldly visitor something special. As someone she will be with for a long time in the future, Melia also hopes that the other party can be stronger, live well, and wait for her to wake up. The night is getting deeper, with the continuous transparency and blurring of the delicate body, finally disappeared into Xiaowen's arms. It turned into a soft halo and submerged into his body. Episode 42. The next morning, Xiaowen opened his eyes from a good sleep. The eyes are bright. He seems to be in very good spirits. He first stretched out his hand and sniffed at the tip of his nose. I don't know if it's an illusion. He always felt that he smelled a faint milk fragrance on his hands. Then he touched his mouth again. I feel a little red and swollen. Although I was a little strange in my heart, why did I dream of biting my lip? But I didn't think much about it. Xiaowen had a very wonderful dream last night. Just in the beginning, he poked a small fireball in his dream. Then it gradually turns into a big fireball. In the end, he actually began to rub the nuclear bomb. In the end, the nuclear bomb exploded. The fierce fireworks wrapped his whole person in it. Not only did Xiaowen not feel any pain, instead, I felt unusually comfortable and warm. It's like you're in the arms of Mother Nature. Enjoy the most primitive sense of well-being. Before the dream ends, in his mind, a voice full of magnetism and gentleness kept echoing. The voice told him a name. A nice name. It's called Melia. Xiaowen smacked his lips on the bed for a long time, only then slowly got up and prepared to wash up and go out. but suddenly, he was slightly stunned. Some incredulous bowed heads. Soon, after finding out that it was the truth, a look of embarrassment appeared on his face. A moment later, Xiao Wenkai let out a helpless laugh and muttered strangely, "Hi, the budding youth of young people is always so sudden and out of control." Xiao Wen got up and changed his clothes and pants again, examined the sheets carefully until he finds no other abnormal stains, just hummed a song, left his room and went outside to wash. Just got outside, he met his father, Sha Set. The other party looked at Xiao Wen carefully for a moment. Pointing to his lips and neck, he said, "Xiao Wen, why is your mouth so swollen? And here, why did you suddenly have an extra red mark?" Xiao Wen shrugged and shook his head a little blankly. "I don't know, I woke up like this." Saying that, Xiao Wen said a little whim, "Daddy, did you say it was last night some beautiful girl sneaked into my room and hugged me and nibbled on me?" The corners of Sha Site's mouth tugged. He glanced at his son with some contempt and said disdainfully, "I'm afraid it was not a girl who sneaked into your room in the middle of the night, but a sow. Look at what gnawed you, the head is not stupid." After despising her own children, Shastra looked at Lilith, who came out of the house, looking at the other party covering his waist, with a look of satisfaction in his somewhat messy hair. Immediately, a smile appeared on his face, turned his head and patted Xiao Wen's head, directly ended the topic. "Go and go, don't dream at a young age. I still have to serve your mother, you boy while playing." Xiao Wen squinted at the pair of parents who were not doing their jobs, then he stretched out his hand and touched the red marks on his mouth and neck suspiciously. While reminiscing about yesterday's dream, he slowly left here. Time is still passing normally. 3 weeks later. Offshore of the Kingdom of Haiglan, merchant ships. The sound of conversation came from inside the cabin. "Master Sha Set, there are 3 days at most before he reaches the Kingdom of Haiglan. There are no dangers along the way, and finally I have to go home." Listen to Agu's exclamation. Xiao Citi nodded, picked up the water on the table and took a sip. A smile appeared on his face, but he seemed to suddenly think of something. Then he looked out the window and asked with some doubt, "Agu, we entered the offshore area of Higran yesterday," he said, "but why are there so many warships stationed in this offshore area? This wind is good, and there is no war, why are these ships stationed there?" Agu's face, a meaningful smile. He said softly, "I don't know about this, probably to prevent some people from entering and leaving the sea. When young Master Zayast arrives on the shore, he should be able to know the situation." Shast looked at Agu's expression, his brow furrowed, and he was about to say something. Suddenly, there was a sound of rapid footsteps outside the door. Soon, there was a knock on the door. Knock knock. Episode 43, the voice of the merchant escort sounded loudly outside the door. "Commander Agu, several small pirate ships have been found ahead, and they are approaching quickly. It seems that the target is a merchant ship, what should we do?" "What? Royal warships are right behind us, how dare they?" Agu slammed the desktop. Stood up with a serious expression. After saying sorry to Shastra, he ran out in a hurry. Shastra watched as the door opened, brows furrowed, thinking in my heart, the kingdom's warships are only tens of miles away from this place. How could there be a pirate ship? Are they all here to die? And Agu? When did he become the ruler? With doubts, Shastra also quickly stood up and walked out, quickly following Agu's footsteps. And on deck, Xiao Wen was already standing there, look out at the approaching pirate ship in the distance. I was also very confused in my heart. In the morning, I saw the fleet of the Higran Kingdom blocking the seas. I saw these pirate ships in the afternoon. Is something not quite right? No one is two fools. Pirate ships that dare to rush over so blatantly, definitely big problem. Xiao Wen was still thinking about countermeasures. Agu had already rushed over with the armed forces on board and with bows and arrows. When a group of people came to the deck of the ship, Agu didn't hesitate at all, directly ordered to draw a bow and shoot arrows. And holding a roll of fire in his hand, he pulled it away sharply, sending a signal for help into the air. At the same time, Xiao Wen also clearly saw the countless figures on the pirate ship, also began to take out bows and arrows and began to shoot in the direction of hitting the convoy. See the scene. Xiao Wen silently retreated away from the area of engagement. As soon as he came to the corner, he saw his father also run out. Xiao Wen hurriedly stopped him, pulled him to the side, and observed the situation change together. The merchant ships were not equipped with any large offensive weapons. Remain above this armed force. The number of people is only more than 100 people. And several pirate ships rushing ahead. On everyone's face, they all smeared some strange things, making it difficult to see the looks. But the number of people on the pirate ship, it also looks like only 100 or so people. And when the first arrow feathers from both sides were fired, the war has already begun. It was also at this moment that Xiao Wen saw that life was so fragile. All you need is a bow and arrow, you can penetrate your head and chest, nothing else is needed at all. Xiaowen wanted to go up and help, but reason told him, you can't expose your ability to magic, otherwise, something extremely troublesome will occur. He is not a saint, and he would rather let his heart be cold until the critical moment. Shastar on the side saw that the pirate ship had come to his feet, quickly said to Xiaowen, I'll go find your mother, don't move around here. If the situation changes in a while, our family abandons ship and flees. After seeing Xiaowen nodding, Shastar immediately turned around and quickly disappeared on the deck. And ahead, Aga squinted and carefully looked at the figure on the pirate ship in front of him, although he could not see the faces of those people clearly, but on the pirate ship, those pirates move in unison, and the hit rate is extremely high, and that one in the crowd, an incomparably abrupt silver-armored man, it had already made him worn and vaguely aware of who these people really were. Aga's afterglow, glancing at the departing Shastar on the side, and Xiaowen hiding in the corner, with a wave of his hand, he made a look at the guards on the side. Soon, there were 7 or 8 escorts still fighting. Put away your bow and arrows and quietly leave the battlefield, in the direction of Charvan and Charset, quickly followed. In the corner, Xiaowen, his gaze never left the battlefield. He watched as several people walked quickly over to escort the guard. In my heart, I felt that the other party's eyes were a little wrong. Xiaowen's brows furrowed slightly, and he secretly said in his heart, in this case, why would someone come? Protect? That's not right. The best protection is to repel these pirates and disperse their forces for what? Xiaowen looked at the indifferent eyes of several people. My heart inexplicably began to become alert. But he didn't make a rash move, just took a few steps back slightly. Turn your back and condense the magic power of the fire element on your palm. Be prepared to respond to unexpected situations. But right now. Bang! There was a sudden loud noise on the merchant ship. It was the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground. At the same time, a deafening roar suddenly came from the pit ahead. Robbery! Who dares to move? Lousy hacks you to death. Episode 44. The tense atmosphere of the battle seemed to condense under this thunderous loud voice. For a while, whether on or off the ship, everyone was quiet for a moment. The momentum of this big man completely shocked everyone. He just stood up to the rain of arrows. It's so easy to jump up from a pirate ship. You know, a recent pirate ship. There is also a distance of nearly 6 or 7 meters from the merchant ship. And the height difference between the two is also nearly 5 meters. The other party was draped in such heavy armor. I jumped up like that. After a short silence, in the end, it was Aga who squinted. Look carefully at this strong man who jumped up from the pirate ship. Shinshin said, Carol, you don't have to paint your face and disguise yourself as a pirate. There aren't many people who can jump easily from a pirate ship. And your appearance, it's okay to deceive others, but we have worked together for so many years, and I still recognize you. The silver-armored big man heard a familiar voice, suddenly turned back. Staring at Agu, who was speaking, Tiger Eye showed a fierce light and roared angrily, actually. It's you traitor, dare to trick Master Shastar back to Heglin to threaten the family, such a vicious heart, Carol, will kill you today. This roaring roar reached Xiaowen's ears, but it made his heart tremble. He looked at the silver-armored man in front of him, who was 9 feet tall, holding a tomahawk, majestic look, but the heart is in chaos. He didn't understand it at all. What did the other party mean by this just now? However, Xiaowen was only stunned for less than a few seconds. Guessed the answer in an instant. Not good. Father is in danger. Xiaowen reacted abruptly. Looking at the few people approaching ahead, it immediately became clear why they came. At this moment, rich fire elemental power, quietly bursting out on his back. But the fireball only flickered once. He was forced down again. Xiaowen knew that the other people had followed their father and rushed into the cabin. If you do it now, there is a high probability that there will be an accident. And for the time being, it's not certain. Is what this silver-armored man said correct? In case of. Is it a lie? It's just a pity that with Aga's words, it sounded. The answer is already coming out and becoming an affirmative sentence. I saw Aga draw the long sword at his waist, and finally no longer hide himself. He looked at the silver-armored man with a defiant expression, said disdainfully, as early as 30 years ago, I knew that the old general's merits were high, and he would definitely be liquidated by the king in the future. If I hadn't been loyal to the king in time and gained his trust, he said, then I may be like you now, I can only do the battle of trapped beasts, and I can't see any hope of living. Saying that, Aga looked in the direction of Xiaowen, said with some regret, His Majesty's plan was originally to use Shastar to threaten the general and end the civil war without blood. What a shame. Between words, several more members of the escort walked out of the cabin. They were all armed with blades. Hold the necks of Shastar and Lilies, slowly walked out. And Xiaowen's side was also held hostage by several guards, came to his parents. In the process, Xiaowen's eyes looked at each other with his parents for a moment. There seems to be some kind of information being exchanged. At this time, the brief silence between the pirate ship and the merchant ship had disappeared. The fighting continues. There were already more than a dozen escorts lying on the merchant ship. Bright red blood rushed out of their bodies. There was a little fishy smell in the air. Aga glanced in Shaster's direction, then he frowned again, looking at the casualties on his side, his expression flickering. Finally, he sighed, looked at Carol's tiger eyes, and said in a deep voice, "Although I don't know, how did you discover such a secret operation? But since it's already happened, let's make a deal. Carol, you know that I am greedy for life and afraid of death, and in order to survive, I can do whatever it takes. The king's order is for me to bring back Chaussette," he said, "so, now I use the greatest sincerity to give you the only one, the best choice." Carol glanced at the young master's family. It was found that they were neatly tied around their necks. He didn't speak, but his momentum was obviously a little weaker. Seeing the scene, Aga nodded in satisfaction and continued, "This choice is to hand over Chaussette's wife and children to you. You can leave with them and return to your Xiao family, either waiting for the opportunity to take revenge, or hiding, or flying away. And I will take Chauster to the king and complete my mission. If you accept it, get out of here and go back to your ship. If you don't accept it, then there is only one fight. Even if we will all be killed by you in the end, then Shast and their family will disappear into this world because of your choice." Episode 45. The silver-armored big man Carol glared angrily, stared at Agu for a long moment. He knew the man Agu. He was once a member of the guards under General Chawel, and he also spent some time with him. Carol. The other party is a little cautious and sparing, but once it's time to work hard, he will lose his mind like a mad dog and fall into madness, pounce on each other and kill each other at all costs. Carol knew that what Agu said was true, and that it was his only option. But originally, it shouldn't be like this. What a miscalculation. The Xiao family, who was wrapped in the atmosphere of war, received a message from several flying birds. These are obviously notes of Shaster's notes. It was sent to Xiao Wen's grandfather, Duke Xiao Well. When I saw the note, it said, "Father, I have received the news that you are going to die. I will take my family. About half a month after this letter arrives, I can go home, stand up, see your grandson and die again." This tiger and wolf word made the old general angry, and immediately guessed that this was definitely the king's conspiracy. This allowed his general Carol to take his men, hide your face, and come and hijack the ship, pretending to be a pirate. In order to let the guards on the ship misjudge and wait for the opportunity to save his ignorant melon baby. From the kingdom of Arendelle to here, there are too many dangers and unknown dangers along the way. The king will most likely not send any powerful characters to follow. With Carol alone leading the people to the rescue, there should not be a big problem. But powerful characters did not meet. Instead, he was recognized by a mad dog who knew him well. Carol smiled bitterly in her heart. At this distance, he could not guarantee that he could instantly hold the soldiers of the Chauster family. Could it be? Do you really want to give up the young master? Carol thought to herself. That face, painted with all kinds of strange colors, slowly turned his head, opened his solemn tiger eyes, and looked in the direction of Xiao Wen's family. But just when his eyes met Xiao Wen, "But I saw the eyes of this little young master," blinked at himself several times. What does it seem to mean? Could it be? Does the little young master still have eye diseases? Looking at Xiao Wen's frowning appearance, this doubt flashed inexplicably in Carol's heart. But within seconds of this doubt, his eyes widened suddenly. In front of his field of vision, Xiao Wen's eyes, a crimson red flame, flashed. The next moment, endless flames suddenly erupted around his body, like a god of flames. In an instant, several people who set up the knife flew out fiercely. With the dull landing of bang bang, the ground sounded. Those guards with roaring flames on their bodies just fell to the ground without resistance, life and death unknown. And at the moment when Xiao Wen started, the Shasters were also not idle. After Charvan knocked away a few knives that were placed on their necks, the couple did not hesitate to start fighting back. Burst out the brave force belonging to the polar adventurers and the sons and daughters of the Xiao family. Bang bang, not a few times, just with Xiao Wen, drop everyone who surrounds them to the ground. Charvan, as a man who believed in the existence of God, after the fight, gently cover the flames to everyone who falls to the ground. I want to mend the knife, cremate them early to God, so as not to suddenly burst into a sneak attack. Most people did not react to this scene. But before those people could react, Agu, who was also wide-eyed, but quietly took a few steps back. After discovering that Xiao Wen is a monster with magical powers, he no longer has any heart free of entanglements. There is no look at the battle at all. Decisively turn around, flashed into the cabin. When Carol reacted and wanted to slaughter the mad dog, but I found that there was still Agu's figure in front of me. I don't know where to hide. However, the silver-armored Big Han Carol after regret. It was with ecstasy, and with a turn of his wrist, he jerked the big axe in his palm. The tiger rushed into the flock and chopped it indiscriminately. It didn't take long for him to chop off the heads of more than a dozen people around him. Then he burst out a hearty laugh. Ha 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 ha. The descendant of young Master Shast is actually a monster with the son of the elements. Bah, it's a genius. Just the words when I fart. Carol coughed twice and continued to howl. Oh hey. Our Xiao family, this must not go against the sky. You bunch of miscellaneous people, blocking Lao Tzu's way, don't die. Episode 46. Carol is like playing. In 3 or 2 strokes, the surrounding guards were cut off and abandoned their armor, and their bodies were shattered. After discovering that no one was surrounding him, only then strode in front of Xiao's sister. The heavy knee armor hit the ground, and one knelt, making a crisp crashing sound. The rough voice said excitedly, Carol, the head of the 3rd Silver Armor Knights, has seen Master Sha set. Oh, by the way, I have also met Lady Loris, and our little young master. Saying that, he did not wait for a response from everyone. Stand up and put his arm around the shoulders of Xiao Stur and Xiao Wen without noticing, laughed and said, come on, let's leave this place first. That fleet of miscellaneous fish in the kingdom will not be long before they arrive. There will be some trouble then, let's go back and talk about it first. Sha said, who was hugged like a chicken cub, although there were many doubts in his heart, he still showed a wry smile, helplessly said to his wife and Xiao Wen, Carol is right, let's get out of here first. Xiao Wen felt the huge force on his body, at the same time of amazement, with killing intent in his eyes, he looked at the soldiers shivering around him. With a hint of indifference in his mouth, he asked softly, Father, these people, do you need to kill them all before leaving? Anyway. It won't take long. Xiao Wen was affected by the fire element, the innate fury power at this time. There is not the slightest mercy in the heart. I just want to finish off all these guys. Hearing Xiao Wen's words, Carol's eyes flashed with admiration, involuntarily came up with an idea similar to this son will become a great vessel in the future. And Xiao Stur glanced at his son unexpectedly. He didn't expect Xiao Wen to encounter this kind of thing for the first time, actually so calm. There is not a single ridiculous sympathy and pity. Still, he shook his head. There is no point in killing these people now, and it may delay our departure. Go back to your grandfather first, and leave the rest alone. Xiao Wen glanced at these people, nodded, looked away, and said nothing more. The family quickly followed in Carol's footsteps. Greeted by the pirate ship, he quickly jumped away from the merchant ship. Xiao Wen had an intuition. That's what happened. Want to return to the kingdom of Arendelle on time. I'm afraid it's already hard. Judging from Carol's words just now, will he even survive? I'm afraid it's all just an unknown. The crowd came to the pirate ship, without any stopovers, straight out of the area. And Carol also converged good emotions, began to slowly explain the beginning and end of everything. Half an hour later, Carol finally took all the things that had happened over the decades. They all carefully described it. The cause, history, and outcome of the matter are simple, you can even guess. It's probably just a veteran who goes to war with the monarch. In the end, he won, but he didn't get rich together. Like most kings in the world, for the existence of the Gonggao Shock Lord, be gentle with the emperor, let the other party disarm and return to the field, and live in seclusion in the mountains and forests. It's very spicy to find all kinds of reasons, destroy the 9 races, leaving no grass. And the monarch of the kingdom of Hegren was the latter. He began laying out the layout decades ago. Until now, it's almost half the battle. The only 2 bloodlines of the Duke of Chawel, it was Sha Stur and his brother. In the decades since Sha Stur left, his younger brother had been secretly killed by the king. The army at the disposal of the Duke of Chawel, also fueled by time and intrigue, reduced by almost half. Just 7 years ago, in Old Will's search for the cause of his son's death, clues were found. Finally, following the clues, the king's vicious conspiracy was discovered. Old Will did not have the foolishness of the king wants the subject to die, and the minister has to die. In the case of still having the strength to resist, he did not hesitate to start a civil war. The strategy of getting the king to boil frogs in warm water was declared a failure. And until the last 2 years, the king only discovered the whereabouts of Sha's site, so another poisonous scheme was born. And this strategy is to bring the Sha Stur family back, threaten Duke Chawel with this. I want to be within control and let them obediently surrender. After listening to the description of the event, Xiao Wen sighed secretly in his heart. Sure enough, his guess was not wrong. And now they have entered the blockade zone of the near seas. Want to go back immediately? It's already impossible. Promise the words of Her Royal Highness the 2 little princesses. It seems that I am really going to break my word. At night, Xiao Wen stood at the bow of the ship, looking at the secluded ocean in the distance. An absurdity rose in the heart, but it's the only idea that you can leave here with confidence. After a long time, in the sky of the pirate ship, an imperial flycatcher with a crown on its head quietly fell in the light of dusk. It was in Xiao Wen's astonished eyes, obediently stopped beside him. That Twitter call, it seems to be signaling something. Xiao Wen involuntarily stretched out his hand and stroked the crown on its head, mumbled in his mouth, so. It really is. Can he take his place? Episode 47. Xiao Wen's hand stroked the crown on the head of the imperial flycatcher. He didn't understand why he was suddenly liked by birds, but if it's providence, that. Go and take this crown off. If this war cannot be ended sooner, then his participation in the world of Frozen may decrease, and the consequences of reduction, it is to never open the world again. That was something that Xiao Wen couldn't stand it. He looked in the direction of Heglin. A rare swear word came out of his mouth, special. The king of dog days, before the princesses have many children and blessings, you run over to do something. If you don't die, who dies? And as time goes on, half a month after Charvan's arrival in the kingdom of Heglin, in the royal palace of Arendelle, a sea change has taken place. The Traveler One, where the king and queen are, it has been determined to have completely sunk in the dark sea of the North Sea. This represents the supreme authority in charge of the kingdom of Arendelle. At this time, he had died as a result of a shipwreck. The two princesses were at the time of receiving the news. I feel like my heart is being stabbed and rotated by a knife. It hurts. Little Anna did not carry this sadness, directly fainted. And Elsa, but he carried the sadness down to death, while fulfilled her duties as an heir and a sister, with what little energy she had left. Go and calm everything down. These days, whenever Elsa feels the elemental magic in her body, generating uncontrollable chaotic fluctuations, she would reach for the pendant under her snow-white collarbone, gently hold this moon-green fruit pit, constantly rubbing on Xiao Wen's name. This makes her have mood swings every time. You can gradually settle your mind. The chaotic elemental magic was also completely calmed. Elsa knew she had lost her parents, but she also has a sister as a relative, and Xiao Wen, the boy she liked. Even if it's still sad, but for them, Elsa feels that she should live strongly. On the night of the morning ceremony, Princess Boudoir Aisha held Anna, whose eyes were red, in her arms, sing the ballads that their mothers taught them as children. Let Anna slowly fall into a deep sleep. After doing this, Elsa stood up and walked out of the room. We came to the viewing platform at the top of the castle. She covered her heaving chest, frowning, a little breathless. Elsa felt like she couldn't control her emotions now. The magic power in the body is constantly surging and scattering. It made her extremely uncomfortable. In less than a few moments, on this small moon viewing platform, at this time it was already covered with cold ice. Icy cold and biting air, with a white mist, slowly drifting outward in the attic. Elsa lowered her hand from her chest. Instead, he held the pendant that Xiao Wen had carved for her. After a long time, Elsa's eyes brought crystal tears, mumbled in his mouth, wait another month and you'll be able to see Xiao Wen. With him, everything will be restored. Xiao Wen. I miss you so much. Come back soon. A mournful murmur, it's so pitiful, it's so deplorable. It's a pity, it was Elsa's words, Xiao Wen couldn't hear. And the fantasy that she thought Xiao Wen would be able to come back in a month, it is impossible to achieve after all. The night grew deeper, Elsa finally calmed down. She waved her hand casually, turned the cold ice on the viewing platform into a white mist, then he swayed his long skirt and turned his head, with the hope that your lover is about to return, silently left the place. And that ethereal white fog also floated out the window, splashed into the air, at last. Trace. Time goes on. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed. At this time, the kingdom of Heglin, in a barracks gladiatorial arena. Charvan is training with Carol, this strong man who was born with divine power and had a talent for hard attributes. He is the head of the 3rd Silver Armor Order. It is among the kingdoms of Heglin, recognized as one of the top powerhouses. For up to 3 full months, Xiao Wen has basically mastered the control of physical strength. Under systematic targeted training, his mastery of power, it is also doubling stronger as the body grows. After coming to the kingdom of Heglin, Xiao Wen will have all the distractions in his heart. It's all forgotten. Wholeheartedly, he began to train himself like a devil. Now Xiao Wen, without using fire element magic, by your own physical body and strength of strength, throughout the barracks, it is already considered a leader. At the rate at which he is growing today, it won't take many years, his strength will surpass that of the 6 knightly masters, that is, Carol's top fierce general. Episode 48. After obtaining the consent of parents and cheap grandpa, Xiao Wen will be in 3 days, officially, step on the battlefield. He will be tempered with life and death in war, to speed up his growth in his body, and the extreme burst of elemental magic. On the barracks gladiatorial stand, Xiao Wen was once again sent out by Carol. He closed his eyes in pain and lay on the ground for 5 seconds. Then put your hands on the ground, suddenly ejected. Rushed to the steel man in front of him again. Half an hour later, Carol slipped her trembling fingers into her pocket. A breezy smile appeared on his face, pointing to Xiao Wen, who was already paralyzed. The subtle training of skills, you still need to master it again. Obviously, you can use 3 points of strength to dodge my attack. You have to touch hard, resulting in rapid physical exhaustion, and there is no strength to fight again. War is not a hard fight, and it is the last word to trample the enemy under the feet at the lowest cost. Also, it's time for your endurance training to step up. You've been tired in half an hour lately, and that's not okay. A big man, more than half an hour in bed. If you don't beat the women to cry daddy and call my mother, I'm embarrassed to say my name is Carol. Carol's roaring voice came out. The soldiers who were watching around them all burst into laughter. After saying this, heroic, Carol stepped forward. He took out his hand and shook it in the air so that he didn't tremble as much as possible. Then he picked up Xiao Wen and quipped, I said, fighting in bed is much more tiring than our fight. This fight kills the enemy. I can be 1,000, if I am in bed, I can't. Xiao Wen opened his eyes with difficulty. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The voice asked a little weakly, what about the most? Carol raised her head, bull's nose facing the sky, proudly said, if it weren't for your sister-in-law stopping me, I would have gone to the convent to play for 10 days and 10 nights, so that they couldn't walk and come back. Xiao Wen glanced at this macho man who was more than 2 meters. Imagine him fighting with a chicken, swallowed a mouthful of spit. Then I closed my eyes again and walked with difficulty, but he said with disdain, cut, just say that if you don't practice the fake style, you will blow. Carol wanted to say something to refute it, but thought of her own tigress, which was also more than 2 meters tall. In the end, he closed his mouth in disdain. Chose not to see with this little baby who is still the first brother. He helped Xiao Wen off the ring, came to sit down outside the tent and did not continue the topic. Instead, he instructed in a deep voice, young Master Xiao Wen, your talent is really ancient menopause, unheard of. Except for me, the other 5 Knight Masters, although I can't spare the time to teach you much, but the most essential part has been basically mastered by you. I have also taught you everything that I can teach. We're going to go into battle in 3 days, so you must be cautious and calm, he said. Don't get carried away because you have power, he said. It's going to cost you dearly. Xiao Wen nodded, calmly said, my current strength is not enough to make me lawless. Even if you have the magic power of the fire element, it can at most repel the strong people of your level, and it will not be able to cause you any damage. In the army of the Kingdom of Highglen, there are 10 generals like you. This is only on the surface. In secret, none of us can speculate what kind of power still exists. Although my magic is unique, there are many special bloodlines similar to yours that have natural abilities. In addition, there are many magical things that can also restrain magical attacks, which I am well aware of. So rest assured, I won't be arrogant. I still want to wait for this war to end, and then go back and marry my 2 little princesses. Carol smiled gratifyingly. He patted Xiao Wen's shoulder and said with satisfaction, well, I'm relieved to have your words. Saying that, Carol's gaze looked to the sky, on a resolute face, a rare hint of tenderness. He said softly, your sister-in-law is pregnant this year, and I really hope that the war will end soon, and I can survive to witness the growth of my child. Xiao Wen regained some strength and sat up straight, also reached out and patted Carol's shoulder, a big smile on his face. With my future Vulcan Xiao Wen here, everything. It's possible, ha 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 ha, this future big truth, Lao Tzu likes it. Very much. Episode 49. It's night. Xiao Wen fell on the bed. My heart missed Elsa and Anna. Close your eyes. Slowly fell into a deep sleep, and at the same time, outside the castle of the royal palace of the Kingdom of Arendelle, Elsa was riding Swain at this time, rushed into the forest. On Swain's back, at this time, there was still a comatose girl lying down. That's Anna. Another 3 months have passed. Xiao Wen still hasn't returned. Elsa's mood became more and more unstable, until tonight, Elsa had a nightmare. She dreamed that Xiao Wen was dead. Elsa was in severe pain in her heart. At the same time, the body surface suddenly emitted a magical fluctuation. Knock Anna, who was holding her to sleep on the side, hit the wall and passed out. The destination that Elsa wants to reach at this time, it is in the deep valley where the goblins are. Her heart was extremely hesitant. I feel that the distance at this time is so far away. In the past, it only took half a day to reach the place. At this time, it is like a road with no end. It's breathtaking. Elsa looked at the winding forest path ahead. Finally, I couldn't bear the anger in my heart anymore. Wave your hand forward. In an instant, endless ice suddenly popped out from her hand. With unparalleled extreme power, sweep away all obstacles in front of you. Swain was shocked at the same time, and there was not the slightest hesitation. Speed up. Immediately rush towards this passage that has been broken by violence. After a long time, under the destruction of Elsa's devastation along the way, 1 man and 1 deer finally came to the deep valley. When it was far away, the great elder of the goblin clan felt the terrifying fluctuations of ice and snow magic. you don't have to think about it, something definitely happened. At the moment when Elsa first stepped into the valley, the Great Elder hurriedly greeted him. There were also densely packed goblin clans around. They also felt the threat of the explosion of ice and snow magic. Elsa did not dare to delay for a moment. After Swain's breakneck speed, immediately hugged Anna down. Pacing to the Goblin Elder, with a hint of crying in his mouth, he begged, "Grandpa Elder, Anna was injured by my magic, you can save her quickly." The Goblin Grand Elder took Anna from Elsa's arms. "Put your palm on the top of Anna's head and feel it carefully." A moment later, the hand of the Goblin Great Elder, it began to burst into a little milky starlight, slowly integrate into Anna's body. Until the soft glow disappeared, the Great Elder of the Goblin nodded reassuringly. Turning to look at Elsa, she sighed softly. "Your Highness Elsa, Princess Anna's injury, I have treated her. But the wound in her heart cannot be treated." At the time of hearing the first sentence, Elsa let out a long sigh of relief. But the Great Elder's next words made her raise her heart to her throat again. She squeezed Anna's hand and asked nervously, "The wound in my heart? Grandpa Elder, did my magic hurt Anna's heart?" The Goblin Elder slowly shook his head and said in a deep voice, "Her Highness's magic, although powerful, is one of the fondest memories in Princess Anna's heart. The wound in my heart I mentioned is Princess Anna's most painful memory." Saying that, the Great Elder of the Goblin was full of stone marks. "It emits a little light fog." It touched Anna's forehead. After a moment, his hand waved upwards gently. Suddenly in the mist, memory pictures appeared, and the first memory picture, it was Anna sitting by the window. In her hand, she held the moon-green fruit pendant that Xiao Wen gave her. Crystal tears slowly fell from her big blue eyes. That pitiful look, it's extremely sad. Further back, it is one picture after another, the picture when Anna and Xiao Wen get along, but then, it became the picture of the day when she heard that her parents were shipwrecked. And every day after that, Anna looked at the portrait of her parents, the look of silent tears. The Great Elder of the Goblin looked at these pictures and said softly, "The most hurt memory in Princess Anna's heart is that Xiao Wen has not yet returned, and the king and their death. The latter has become a fact and cannot be changed, and Princess Anna must slowly learn to accept it. But in the case of the former, I suggest temporarily blurring her memory of Xiao Wen. If Charvin were still alive, when she met Princess Anna, all she needed was a kiss of true love, and she would recall everything she would have remembered. But if Xiao Wen is really killed, then let Princess Anna live happily." Episode 50. Elsa remembered this scene after watching it. After a long silence, head down, looking at her sister who frowned, the corners of her mouth were tightly pursed, and fell into a deep sleep. She closed her eyes in pain, somewhat difficult to say, "I don't want to see my sister and continue to suffer like this." Saying that, Elsa opened her eyes, and a look of determination flashed in her eyes. She bowed deeply to the Goblin Elder, sincerely said, "Please Grandpa Elder, help Anna. Even if she resents me and hates me in the future, I will accept it. As long as I can live happily." Hearing this, the Goblin Elder nodded, sighed. Without further ado, he put his hand into the memory picture condensed by the fog. All the memories about Xiao Wen, all covered with a dark gray fog. No one saw that Anna's slightly curved little hands had turned into clenched fists at this time. After a long time, the Goblin Elder lowered his hand and picked up the mist, slowly put it into Anna's eyebrows, and said softly, "Okay, go back and let Anna rest for a while. Also, Your Highness Elsa, when you can't control your emotions, it's best not to go near Princess Anna, as this will make her hurt again. I already know about Xiao Wen's disappearance, but what I want to tell you is that this little guy is a person who was born to know and has a life full of miracles. I don't think he died like this. When you don't get the exact news, please Your Highness must be hopeful and believe Xiao Wen." Having said that, the Goblin Great Elder's expression seemed a little tired. He turned and waved his hand at Elsa, then it turned into a large blue stone, rolled into the deep ravine. And on the side, he was still hugging Carter on the side. Swain, who was nervously watching this scene, sniffled, then he spat out a snort and said, Hoo, Xiao Wen Kai won't die." "You said yes, Carter. Of course, I never believed that Xiao Wen would die, he just encountered some trouble and couldn't come back for the time being." Hoo, it's good that you can believe it. But I have to take Anna back to rest, and when Charvin returns, we will come to you together." After Sven finished expressing his meaning, he stood up on the deer's hooves and walked slowly to Elsa's side. Finally carry them, slowly left the deep valley. During the time she returned to the castle, Elsa changed her clothes into another room. When Anna woke up, Elsa hugged her sister and confessed to her why she slept apart. Elsa at this age, because of the appearance of someone, Guy, let everything change. This time, she didn't close her heart, it's about accepting everything. I didn't put those white gloves on my hands anymore. Just slept in a separate room with Anna. Not only did the relationship not break, but it became better after Anna's memory was blurred. Although, Anna is always in the dead of night, wake up from a beautiful dream. Leaning against the head of the bed, stroking the moon-green fruit pendant that belonged to her. Anna always looked at the name Shawan again, the heart is so warm. Actually, on the day I went to the goblins, she did not fall into a complete coma. Everything around her, she listened to in her ears. About Elsa's decision to agree to blur her memory, Anna refused. But she couldn't open her eyes and couldn't resist. She can only be forced to accept this decision that is good for her. Until now, Anna couldn't remember Xiao Wen's appearance, but those memories of spending time with him in childhood, but it always appears in Anna's dreams from time to time. Although I can't see the other person's face clearly, but Anna had always believed that the boy was still alive. She looked forward to it. Someday in the future, her knights will meet her again, with the kiss of true love, awaken her sleeping memory, recall everything about him, see the cheek that always has a big smile, live happily ever together, no more leaving. Time passes again, 2 years after Charvan left Arendelle. The royal capital is in the castle. 15-year-old Elsa, there is already a 3-point temperament of the Ice Queen. At this point, she is sitting in the government chamber, dealing with official business. When she picked up the papers on the table and sorted them out, but suddenly found at the bottom of the scroll, there is a red letter with the mark of violet. Elsa's heart is pounding. A look of hope flashed in his eyes, but soon, this look was hidden by her again. Aisha looked at the big words on the envelope, the latest information of the Hygrin Kingdom.